it's Brandon Pipkin, founder of StopEmotionalAbuse.net. If you're attached to somebody you know is bad for you, pay attention. This video's got some great tips. If you're not sure if a guy is bad for you, there's a couple of ways that you can find out. Number one, how do you feel when you think about the relationship? Does it feel like what healthy would feel like? Do you feel like your needs, wants, and desires are supported? Now, in an abusive situation, sometimes your mind gets pretty tripped up because the other person is really good at abusing, and so you think that maybe your needs, wants, and desires don't even matter, or maybe you've forgotten what they are. But pay attention to what your gut is telling you, and think about this. If somebody were to tell you about a relationship like yours, would you think it's healthy? If you want some help determining whether or not it's healthy, whether or not you're being abused, whether or not you're with a guy who might not be good for you, go to StopEmotionalAbuse.net/questionnaire. See how many yes answers you get. So if you're with somebody who's not good for you, but you feel attached to them, here come 4 key steps and tips that you can use to break that attachment and get toward a healthy place. Number 1, journal. I am such a huge proponent of journaling. When you journal, you can see clearly what's happening. You can look back and you can see patterns. You no longer live in darkness or in confusion because it's right there. And make sure that you hide this from your abuser. You don't want them finding this. If you have it somewhere that they can find it, rest assured they're going to use what's in there against you. This is what happened to a lady I counseled for a while. She had a journal that she kept. And when her husband, a very abusive man, found it, he ripped it all up and he accused her of all kinds of things. Keep your journal safe, but get all of your key thoughts there. What's happening, the threats the other person makes, the wild things that they do, the things they do that don't make any sense. Get it there in your journal so that you can look back and see what's really happening. Do the best you can. You might be confused. It might not make total sense. Just start getting your thoughts out on the page. The second key to breaking an attachment to a guy that's not good for you is to name what's happening. If it's abuse, you name it abuse. If they're doing things like invalidating your thoughts and feelings and opinions, you name it to yourself. That's invalidating right there. When they scream at you and call you names, you call it what it is, verbal abuse. If they love bombed you in the beginning, but then they turn to Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and now they start using intermittent reinforcement to get you to do what they want, you put names and labels to that. I've talked about those in earlier videos, and there's a reason I keep repeating these. These are terms that are so helpful to understand. And once you know what these terms are, and if you're experiencing it, you start to see things clearly. It's like a whole new world. You start to understand what's really happening in your situation so that you can deal with them in reality. See, one of the worst things we can do is try to deal with this stuff in darkness. We have to shine the light on what's really happening to get the help that we need. Go to StopEmotionalAbuse.net/common terms to learn about some of those terms that I talked about. And if those things make sense to you, if they resonate with you and you see in clear terms what's happening to you, that along with your journaling helps you understand in reality, I really am in a situation that's not healthy. And that brings us to the third key here to breaking that attachment of a guy who's not good for you. It's to recognize what's really happening here. Call it what it is. I'm going to give it to you straight because I care about you and I want you to live in truth. Like I said, we've got to shine the light. If you are attached to somebody and crave their approval, somebody that has been horrible to you, I'm going to call it what it is. It's an addiction. You are addicted to the approval of that other person. That addiction started when you were a child. You grew up with a parent or some other significant figure in your life telling you that who you were as you were was not good enough, that you didn't measure up in their eyes. And since that time, you've actually subconsciously sought out people who were similar because that's what was familiar to you. You sought out people who wouldn't validate you, sought out people who wouldn't treat you well, because that's what you thought you deserved. You already knew how to operate with those people. You already knew that I need to behave a certain way. I need to serve them. I need to do whatever they tell me to do in order to please them. And if I do that, then maybe they'll love me. Well, that, my friends, chasing that approval, chasing that love, doing whatever it takes to get somebody to approve of you, especially somebody who abuses you, that's an addiction. Now that you know that it's an addiction, you can deal with it in light and in truth. And that's what brings us to the fourth key. It's to break that addiction. And I'm not kidding you. This is a full-on addiction. You are addicted to the approval of other people, and you're willing to do whatever it takes to get the approval of those other people. And how do you break an addiction? You need to understand that all addictions stem from holes in your heart that you're trying to fill. So I want you to go deep in your journaling, and I want you to journal about past hurts and problems. I want you to do some guided imagery exercises and understand what's been going on in your life. Work with a professional. Find a competent professional in your area. Of course, I help people, I coach them through these things and help them work through those traumas. But find somebody that you feel comfortable with, that resonates with you, that you know that you can trust. Work with them to understand the source of this addiction in your life, the addiction to the approval of other people that has cost you so dearly, that has caused you to stay in emotionally abusive relationships, that has caused you to take whatever crumbs somebody would give to you and call it love. Find the source of that pain. At the same time, set some boundaries. Just posted a video on that. Check that video out. Set boundaries about how you're willing to be treated and not treated anymore. And understand that if you consistently are mistreated by somebody who's bad for you, to break the attachment from them, you've got to go no contact with them. That means in as much as possible, you don't have any contact with them. Every time you talk to them, you will feel some sort of a connection to them, some sort of a euphoric high almost, when you think you might be able to get their approval. Because if you were able to get their approval, what it would signal is that everything's fine, that you are lovable, that you are approvable. But guess what? They're unhealthy. They're never going to give you that safe, real validation. So don't look to them for that anymore. Stay away from that person as much as you can, because they'll pull you back into it. I put out a video on that as well. Why does the abuser beg you to come back after you leave them? It's because they lost control. That's all they're interested in. That abuser doesn't care about you. They can't. They don't know how to care about you. That's not what they are all about. That's not who they are. So listen, to break this attachment, journal. Recognize what's going on. Name it. Recognize that what's happening is an addiction and get some help. We have a complete online abuse recovery program. We will address the things that are causing you pain and frustration in your life and causing you to be attached to people who aren't good for you. We can help you break that addiction, understand where the addiction is coming from, work through those things, do the journaling and guided imagery exercises to get yourself to a place of emotional healing and wholeness. If it feels like a good program for you, go ahead and sign up for it. If you're looking for other resources that may be able to help you, go to stopemotionalabuse.net. Check out our questionnaire, as I mentioned. Check out the resources. Check out the abuse recovery guide. Let us know how we can help.